Now I know that those of us who have wood stoves, we like to post a nice, pretty, wonderful, well put together, uh, shiny wood stove with a perfect fire running inside. Yeah, I've done it many times. However, the reality of the situation uh, is much, much different. Okay. Uh, the primary use of this wood stove, uh, of course, it is. It's nice to look at, but the primary uses of this wood stove is to produce heat as well as cook and warm things up. So you can cook and warm things up because it has a large surface. Okay. And so I'm going to walk through what you're actually seeing and why it is that way. Okay. So during normal use of a wood stove, you're going to produce ash. You're going to have sticks and everything like that all over the place, and you can keep it as tidy as you want. And this is what we attempt to do when it comes to the wood stoves, because you have a lot of ash coming out and you have a lot of wood coming in. Just to give you a visual of that, I've posted uh, stacks and stacks and stacks and pallets and pallets and pallets of wood in which we use, and all of that flows into these wood burning stoves. So we have a lot of waste coming out. It's not waste; it's actually treasure, because we're using that wood ash inside of the garden. We're using it to fill holes. There's a tremendous amount of uses for wood ash. Okay, primarily from a gardening and soil amendment perspective. I even sprinkle it on areas of the grass to uh, uh, put that nutrients back into the soil. So we have that, but hey, it's producing a lot of mess. So therefore, you want to make sure that you have a standard broom, dustpan. We have a poke and a prod, as you see here, so that once I get the wood into the stove, I can go ahead and adjust it accordingly. Okay. You may have other tools. I have a shovel as well as a small uh, broom to sweep up all of the ash and debris and wood chips and stuff that fall. Typically, I don't throw it into the trash. We just chuck it outside onto the side. It's dirt and ash and twigs. It'll go right back to the soil. It's not going to be a problem. So we just chuck the debris right outside of one of the cabins. So this is how we do it. We have to maintain the wood stove. If you want to maintain heat in your home, typically we are adding wood to the wood stoves probably about I would say every 3 4 hours, and then probably once in the middle of the night, and then again in the morning. So you typically you head to bed, uh, let's say midnight. You'll fall asleep. People sleep at different times. It may be 8 for you, 9 for you, whatever. I don't. It doesn't matter. But we will load the wood stove before we go to bed, and then we'll wake up, one of us or both of us or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And we'll go ahead and we will feed the wood into the wood stoves and then go back to bed. Typically, by the time you go to the bathroom and then come out and throw some wood in there, that's all 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. I would say not even that. Uh, but then after that, you're off to bed. Uh, so typically, that's how we keep the wood stoves loaded. And you would ask, why is there a pot and a kettle on top of the wood stove? Well, why? As well as a brick, is because wood stoves, um, they do an excellent job at extracting the moisture out of the air. Okay, So what you want to avoid is you want to avoid dry air inside of your home or your cabin, because what that does is that it messes up with the sinuses. Your breathing. It's just not healthy for anything to not have moisture inside of the air. So what we do is we go ahead and we fill up a pot, a pan, whatever it is. This is an extra pot. We fill it up with water, and that steam goes off, and when it gives moisture in the air. Okay. Now the kettle. That's another thing, right? Want some coffee? Want some tea? Need some hot water right quick. Kettle is always there. You have hot water on hand in addition to this hot water. So you always have some hot water on hand, okay? For some tea or something like that, or if you need some warm water or something like that, right? Or instead of using your um, uh, faucet to get hot water, you take some cold water and you take the hot water from the wood stove, refill it back up, and use that hot water to do any number of things. Washing a pair of clothes by hand, a shirt or something by hand, or mopping the floor, or doing general cleaning. Hey, you got some hot water there that you don't have to tap your other resources to produce. And then I got a brick. Well, I got that brick there because, hey, after uh, I love to eat. My breakfast for the morning typically is some homemade bread, some homemade blueberry bread, or cinnamon, apple cinnamon bread, as well as my coffee. So I can put my cup of coffee on my wood stove, and I can put my piece of bread in some aluminum foil or something like that, and it keeps it warm. Okay. And then last but not least, you got what we got there. You got a bucket, and that is to collect the uh, ash out of the wood stove. But in addition to that, there's a drawer underneath this country hearth wood burning stove, and I think this is the only different kind of stove that I have on the land. All of the other stove are low pi stoves of various sizes, and man, I love those stoves. But this stove is just as fine. As a matter of fact, I plan on transitioning it out of here to put another wood stove in here. But it has on this particular one, it has an ashtray, so that you don't necessarily have to dump it, but you still got to dump it because the ashtray fills up. So we go ahead and take that, put it in the greenhouse, put it in the garden, put it in the sheep pen, put it in the chicken coop. I gotta tell you, man, it's dozens of uses, over a dozen uses for wood ash that I use it uh, personally. So this is the setup. It is sitting on a platform that I built and I tiled out, and I've done reviews on this before and just tiled the entire wall and everything like that. So this is the wood stove setup. This is how it actually looks on any given day at any given time. Um, yes, you can clean it up. You may have to shut it down, clean it out. But typically, we continuously have it going. And let me tell you, I mean, you can leave this thing on all night, and then in the morning time, you have some nice hot coals, and you go ahead and throw some wood up in there. So, it's constantly walking up and down the land. We're constantly in my office. I'm constantly everywhere, and that's how we heat. So it's relatively easy because it's kind. I mean, I like to think about it like this, right? Now I try and tell the family uh, when you're coming in, bring a piece of wood and just put it to the side, because then I mean, it's much easier. Like every time I walk in to the cabin, I have a piece of wood in my hand. Every time I walk into the other cabin or in the house, or everything, I make sure I have a piece of wood in my hand, or a couple of pieces of wood in my hand, especially if I'm not carrying nothing. Everything is along the way. I set up everything in such an efficient fashion so that you got to pass it a long time, along and walk into the pantry or walk into the sheep pen or the goat pen or whatever. It's along the path. So this is how we get the wood into the house. You walking in, bring a piece of wood in. You get rebuked You don't walk in this house without a piece of wood. So uh, this is how we do it. This is the actual setup. I'll clean up. You see, I was um, sweeping up and everything. But the idea is that this is how it typically is. We clean it off, we may dust it off or wipe it down or whatever, and then start it all over again, especially if it's shut down. Uh, but this is what we use it for. We cook, we heat, uh, we salvage its resources, its natural resources that's produced, its organic resources that is produced. We use that to cultivate the land. We enjoy, we sit down, and it's nothing more pleasurable, I think, with sitting down with friends or family in front of a wood burning stove, fellowshipping and eating good food, and just enjoying another's company. But that's the breakdown of the wood stove, how we use it, the experiences, and how it flows, and last but not least, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. I've never purchased a wood burning stove new. These retail 3, 6. I probably have about $16,000 retail wood burning stoves, and I've only paid probably a couple of thousand for all of them. There's deals out there. You just got to get them. But that's the complete breakdown of this in action wood stove. Yeah.